Hi, it's Glenn from Sound Sanctuary Austin, and I've got Kevin Wolf here in from CH Precision. And we've been talking about a lot of the product line in their One series. And one of the things people often associate with CH is how separable everything is, how things can, the number of boxes you can do in that product can get a little nutty. You can do right unit, left unit, separate power supplies. And all that has amazing benefits in lowering the noise floor, getting more music out. But you do have a product where everything kind of is in one box. It's the i1 integrated. So how did that thing happen with all this philosophy of getting everything separate and then, except for this one, let's put it all in one box?
Well, it's an interesting one because it does not fit neatly into most of the approach where you start with a stereo line stage and then you add an external power supply and it gets better. And then you add a second line stage to go dual mono with a second. So now your stereo line stage that started as one box occupies 4 racks. And I don't know what rack company you're working, I know who you're working with, but in general, rack companies love us. We sell lots of shelves. Again, if the preamp can do that, our DAC can go from 1 box to 3, and then you could actually add more power supplies on each of those 3 boxes to go to 6. And we haven't added the clock yet or the transport with another box. So you could have an entire rack of boxes just around a digital front end. So it can get, these are theoretical. There are not a lot of people that do this.
People used to have walls of record albums. You just have an entire wall of CH Precision.
It's awesome.
Okay, except if you want the i1.
So yeah, so when we designed the i1, it had to have, and I've described this before with other products, we always start with a blank sheet. What does it need to be? And so we looked at the i1 in a different light. What we tried to make is something that embodies what CH is. But for the person that wants the integrated amp, they're not looking for a wall of audio gear. And so we really tried to optimize it to be what it is. And it starts with the amplifier, quite honestly. When I look around the industry at the competition, the competitive super integrateds, there are a lot of $10,000 integrateds, and they're wonderful products, and $5,000 integrateds. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the big $40,000 integrateds, like what the i1 is. And when you read their literature, that you would think that they have the biggest amplifier that's ever been designed, and usually they are built around some nuclear power plant with the idea that you could drive any speaker in the world with this integrated. Well, that's true, although somebody looking at it integrated isn't looking at buying a pair of Wilson XVXs. They're looking at a pair of Watt Puppies, because they don't have room for XVX. If you can fit XVXs with subsonics, you're going to have a wall of CH. Right? It's a different person. It's a different need. It's a different want.
It's a different room.
It's a completely different room.
Could be the same person.
Could be the same person.
You
could
get
be
a
the
little
ski
taste.
chalet.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But it is a different use. Or somebody downsizing. Same person now downsizing, and they want that XVX with the wall of CH, something cut of that cloth. But it's time for a new place that's smaller. And so the i1 has a 100 watt per channel amp. It actually is based on our original A1 power amplifier, which is an incredibly capable amplifier. It's a beautiful amplifier. Yes, it'll drive XVX. Will it drive them like they should be driven? No. But that's not what it was designed for. Now here's where the balance part of the equation comes. It's not a nuclear power plant. At the same time, it also isn't a nuclear power plant with a $1,000 DAC. And that's what you're usually getting with these super integrateds. When you try to squeeze all that in, they grab their biggest amp that can fit, and then they have really limited sources that are built in. The DAC is an off-the-shelf, $1,000 DAC from XYZ OEM manufacturer. If they offer a phono stage, it's some IC-based op-amped thing that's really not up to the task of something as capable of a pair of Watt Puppies or a pair of embodies or something. So what we did with the i1 was we employed a lot of our knowledge from the original C1, the predecessor to the C1.2. So the digital section uses our proprietary Peter Spline filters. the DAC in it, I'll put up against virtually any DAC near the price of the i1, not just without an amp. It is a world-class digital section. The volume control, unlike most high-end DACs that have volume control, those are all done in the digital domain that has lots of lost resolution as you turn it down. It's got one of the most complex gain structures or volume controls I know in the industry. Every 6 dB, there's an analog step, and then we do digital trim between those steps. We have no loss of resolution no matter where we are in the gain structure. That is not a digital gain control. It's a very elaborate system to maintain performance, again, focusing on this level of performance. The Phono stage, our P1 that I mentioned earlier, is an industry reference, and what is really most liked about the i1 is the P1 is 2 of the inputs are current mode, which are incredibly simple to work for an end consumer. They use low output moving coil cartridges. There's no loading, so you don't have to fix for the distortions that happen and damp the cartridge in the voltage mode. We do it in current mode. So literally you hook up the turntable, you have greater signal to noise. We also built in a number of the equalization curves. Maybe the most important for me is Teldec. All of the original Deutsche Grammophon pressings, with very few exceptions, use the German Teldec curves. When you hear those original 70s up through 82 original pressings, when they're played back into Teldec versus RIAA, suddenly the pianos are open. Suddenly you can tell it's Karajan conducting. They don't sound like a blankets over the recording. That's built into the i1 if you put the optional Phono stage in. So each one of those
And that's
pieces,
all just switchable with the remote between those curves? Or how
exactly, from the remote or from the app. And so these are features. Again, the idea here is to represent all of this as closely as we can, but with the paradigm of a single box. So no, it doesn't expand, it's done. You can add streaming, it doesn't come with streaming. So if you want to stream, you add the streaming card. If you want to use USB, you use a USB card, you put that in. If you want to do Phono, you add Phono. You outfit it how you want, and if you change your mind, the cards are easily installed by you, and it takes two number 10 torque screws. So it's quite simple to do these updates, so it can be done in the home. So it embodies all of the other philosophical approach with tremendous software control, tremendous optimization, firmware. In fact, a year and a half ago, we offered a free firmware update to the i1. There are a couple of reviews that just talk about how much better the i1 sounds with the new firmware. That was free. I think that's a pretty cool story.
Great. Well, it was the first piece that I really had in-house from you, just as we started our dance together to see if we're right for each other. And so I put it on the Watt Puppy, a speaker that I had for months and had it with several different pieces of equipment in here, all very great equipment. And I put your i1 on there, and it was like, that's different. And then the dance continued. Anyway,
Yeah.
Thanks for the description and for your time.
Thank you.